Welcome to New Life Live with Stephen Arterburn. For 35 years, New Life has been transforming lives one at a time thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's today's host, Becky Brown.
Hello, everybody. I'm so glad you are here today, and you're going to be talking with me and Jill Hubbard as well as JJ West, and it's going to make a difference in your life. One of the things that we do is we talk to men every day about getting to the life that God has for them. And today I've invited our Vice President of Development, Brian Blomberg, to talk with JJ because Brian goes to our Every Man's Battle workshop, not because he has this problem, but because he's part of our staff that wants to make sure that the men attending have a great experience. And so, Brian and JJ, one of the things that we talk about is a father wound at Every Man's Battle, which I think is surprising because men don't make the connection of the why they're doing what they're doing to what has happened in the past. So, Brian and JJ, why don't we talk about that just a little bit? What is that about, and what does that mean for men that have a father wound?
Yeah, I think most guys who come to the Every Man's Battle workshop, they come because they've either been told by others or they've heard in their own head, oh, you're just this oversexed pervert, monster, idiot, fill in the blank. There's something wrong with you. Your sex drive is off kilter in some way. And they're so focused on, oh, I've got to change this behavior. And they think the reason why I've been acting out the way I have is because what I've been told, that I am this monster, I am this oversexed pervert, whatever. And they've never done the work to find out that, in fact, so much of what they're doing in their sexual acting out is to offset these shame messages that they have believed about themselves, most of the time from wounds from their childhood. Now, we call it the father wound because it often does come through some broken relationship with their earthly father, but it's not always a quote unquote father wound in that respect. Sometimes it comes through their relationship with their mother, a grandparent, a coach, a teacher, a neighbor, an uncle, that sort of thing. But a lot of we call it the father wound just to have, because it would be a long list to say all those every time.
Right. Exactly. There's a core wound. And Brian,
there's a core wound.
Go ahead,
yeah.
JJ.
No, you're right. You're good.
And so Brian, what have you been surprised when you have witnessed the men shifting their thoughts from this is just a habit I just need to stop to really getting to the core, whatever that core wound is?
Yeah, it's amazing. We see at these weekend workshops, guys, maybe for the first time, being honest what has taken place in their life. And for many guys, they were going to go to the grave with the hurt and the story they had in the past. And there is just a release of just stress, and there's just their shoulders kind of relax when they, for the first time, tell their story. And there's so much, everybody's got a story, and there's so much behind that, so much hurt and pain. It's never a blame game because we are all responsible for our own actions, but just to understand where some of this has come from and just the emotion and the hurt behind it, it just makes all the difference.
I love that. So men, join us this weekend in Orange County. We're going to have an Every Man's Battle. Brian will be there. JJ will be there. And you can get started on this new life that God has for you. And I know, Brian, we've got an Every Man's Battle podcast coming out this month in October. And I know we're going to hear more about that. We want to help you experience that new life, to get over whatever it is that's driving you to do things not the way that God has, and not even the way that you want for your family or for just you personally. We want to help you. We'll be back after this break with your calls. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, JJ.
My girlfriends and I have been searching for so long to try to find an event to attend.
Lumina is a new women's conference designed to inspire your faith, so you can lead and live confidently from God's Word.
It was nice to come here and just realign myself with who God says He is in my life.
The Lumina Conference is a 2-day experience. 1 full day of worship and teaching in Museum of the Bible's World Stage Theater, and a half-day guided tour through Museum of the Bible.
You are literally immersed in the Word of God. You can walk through the Old Testament. You can walk through the New Testament.
Lumina is for women of all generations, cultures, and denominations. It's a great place to gather with women from your church and community.
If you want some fellowship and you want to be strengthened, this is the place you want to be.
This year's Lumina Conference is October 27th and 28th in Washington, D.C.
It was absolutely life-changing.
For more information, go to luminawomen.org.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. It's a new month, October already. I know some of you are loving that pumpkin spice season.
Oh, yeah.
And,
I bought my first pumpkin gourds.
Oh, my gosh. I'm sure you did.
Of course.
You know, here... It's just, but in the new month, we have several ways that we want to help you stay connected. And so, we have Every Man's Battle, which I just mentioned. We've got our intimacy and marriage workshop. Couples, if you haven't done something this year for your marriage, this is your opportunity. It's going to be in Dallas. We've got our Life Recovery Connection Conference, which is online October 7th. Which is the end of this week. And also Lumina, the women's event that's in Washington, D.C. and the Museum of the Bible. We want to connect with you and we want you to be connected. It's part of our values. We want and we see the value of connection. And so we want to help you get there. One thing we're going to connect on right now is we're going to go to the calls, and we're going to take a call from Richie, who's calling us from Los Angeles, California, listens on KKLA. Hello, Richie. And he dropped, and I don't know why that is happening to me, but we are going to move on. And we're going to talk with Pete, who's calling us from Washington, D.C., listens on WAVA. And Terry, there you go. I'm going to have Terry do it. Hi, Pete. Thanks for calling. How can we help you today?
Yes, I just had a question in dealing with someone that I was once connected with in my life, and when we reconnected, I learned that they had various, say, addictions and possibly even a personality disorder, and I only realized that after I felt there were layers of mistruths that on my end, I felt, oh, wait a minute, I'm not experiencing this. So my question for you is, you had mentioned a book on chemical addiction, although I think there might be behavioral disorders, not being a professional. Can you reference maybe what I could do in understanding, even if we're not connected, what that person might have experienced or going through?
All right, Jill or JJ?
Can you give us a little more information in terms of types of behaviors you were seeing? You're saying it's not substance abuse, so what are you seeing in this person?
Oh, no, I'm sure that is part of it.
Oh, okay.
Whether it be, yes, there were just generally, I'm just nicotine, and then wait a minute, there might be more involved. And then, when I was speaking with them, it seemed like one half would not remember what the other said. Like there's a person that I once knew that would sometimes come out in our conversation and be, I remember. And then another person who just seemed completely cut off and almost like lacking empathy. It stunned me because the only person that I had known when I was younger was a caring, loving person. And I didn't know, not having this in my relationship, whether that was the impact of drugs or personality disorder. So I was looking for a book that might, as you hear me and at our professionals, what I was experiencing and what resources might best help me interpret what had happened.
Have you talked to somebody, Pete? Have you ever done any counseling about it?
I have inside the church. Yes, I did mention it at a men's retreat. Yes, I did, and they were not only Christian pastors, but had a professional counseling background, such as yourself.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right, JJ.
It sounds like, Pete, what you're describing could be, and again, having not met the person, can't diagnose them over the air like this,
Right.
but it's what you're describing sounds like it could be dissociative identity disorder, where there is
And what I
a
didn't
distinct.
mention, what I didn't mention in their past was that they did have a past trauma as a young person, and
Yeah.
a sexual trauma, and I
Yeah.
did not know that until when we were younger. I didn't know it, and I wondered if over the years, being untreated, it seems to that seems to have grown. So I'm not a professional.
That's
but
often,
what I
that's
experienced.
often the background for someone who does have dissociative identity disorder is a severe trauma, oftentimes a severe sexual trauma. So it's not so much a personality disorder as it is that when someone experiences such a trauma like that, what they end up doing is the brain, in order to survive the horror of what they went through, the brain kind of separates into different parts, and each part handles part of the trauma so that the person doesn't have to handle all of the trauma by themselves. And so that's why there may be this disconnect where the one personality, if you will, that you're talking to doesn't seem to have any memory of your past interactions and doesn't seem to be like the person that you knew so many years ago. So it may, and again, I don't know this person, so I can't
Right.
say for sure, but it could be that what you're actually encountering is dissociative identity as opposed to personality disorder. So you may want to look for resources specific to that, how you would interact with someone with dissociative identity. Hopefully, if you have a relationship with this person, you can encourage them to get into therapy, because they're really going to need to do that if they have any hope of healing. Dissociative identity disorder is not going to just go away on its own. They're not going to heal on their own.
No. And as you have seen, it gets worse over time, right? Because they have to do more to keep it contained. And so you have these encapsulated parts of a person's self. So I was wondering about that, on the milder end of the spectrum, when people are using drugs and alcohol or harder substances and lying about it, it does impact their personality and their memory and those things. And so they can appear to be like a different person under the influence, or depending where they are in their cycle of use. So, but then at the other end would be if there was trauma, and you're confirming that there was, that then yes, what JJ has described can be the problem, and especially when it seems so distinctly different. And like you were saying, there isn't like this connecting the dots of how we all do, right? Like, oh, remember when? And it's like you're dealing with a different person, and you're not knowing which person is going to show up. And
it can be
because it did not seem like an intentional gaslighter. It sounded when I would talk with it was, and that's why it. And again, not being a professional, it felt more like this because there was this extremely empathetic person at one time that would say things like, "Our family unit, it's really helping me," and the other that seemed to lack any empathy in the situation. It was too different, and it was very hard to navigate that. So I will look for resources. I think you've pointed me to that to understand that maybe now that three people have said it could be dissociation and then medicated by and the drugs because it's untreated by professionals.
Right. And Pete, I would add this one more thing is that we also have to grieve when we are in relationships with people who are struggling, no matter what it is, because it's really hard. I wrote the book with Steve, Understanding and Loving a Person with Bipolar Disorder, and the approach I took was to understand that their struggle is theirs, but it affects us. And there's got to be stuff that we do to find the pathway forward to either grieve, to connect with help, so that we can be present to help our loved one or our friend, or even have to draw a boundary and then to seek help and comfort beyond that. We're so grateful that you called, Pete. And I think that's, I love what you guys were talking about, because it is complex. It's not, it's not just one thing, and people are complex, and it affects us. But we're glad you called, Pete, and I hope that we're going to send you a copy of Take Your Life Back, only because that's a little bit more about how to, discern between what is yours to deal with and what is something that somebody else is working on. We're glad you called. We're going to go to Jade now, who's calling us from Dallas, Texas, watches us on YouTube. And we are so glad you called. Jade, how can we help you today?
Hi, I'm just calling to ask a question. I recently have my adult daughter who has moved into my home with her husband and 3 children. And I keep my house orderly in a certain way, and she doesn't. And I just want to know, how do I set boundaries with her without losing the relationship between us, because she's not as neat and clean. And I just want to figure that out.
That's a great question. It can be pretty tricky when we combine households. Jill, how would you recommend Jade begin to kind of
Jade,
address this?
First and foremost, you do want to keep the relationship, right? And so
yes.
I think looking at some of your own expectations, because certainly 5 people moving in, and I don't know if it's just you there or if there's someone else with you, but that's a lot of people. And how old are the kids?
Yes, the kids are 2, 1, and 7, and yes, I live by myself.
Okay, 2, 1, and yeah. So that's a lot for someone who's used to living alone and used to controlling your environment, right? And if you tend to be someone that's, more of a neat person anyway, right? That's going to be a huge challenge. Did you guys set up any expectations prior to them moving in? Like certain parts of...
They were only supposed to be there for a couple of weeks while they wait for the closing of their home. And so I thought, well, yes, I can work this out. It's just only a couple of weeks, and now it's longer. So now I have to reset the expectations and have another conversation.
Okay. Well, I think that's fair to say, we thought it was going to be this amount of time. Now it's longer. Let's set some things up so that we all are comfortable here. Mm-hmm. And certainly, certain parts of the house that you've kind of given as their guest quarters, right? And so making those, like, however they keep that, it's kind of their business. But the common area, and I have different people living in and out of my house all the time, and adult kids and things. And so the common area is where we have to be more courteous, right? So it's just like having roommates or whatever. The common area, you pick up your things. Now, it's probably hard with young kids, but at a certain time of day, asking if the, kind of the toys or whatever, the chaos can be moved back into their area, right? And it's just, you're just asking this out of, courtesy, and asking them to kind of partner with you, and that you don't expect it to be exactly like you have it, right? This is where you've got to be a little bit flexible, Jade. But if they're really encroaching, I think you need to make them aware, because parents of young kids are often doing the best they can, and the mess is usually the least of their worries.
Yeah. JJ, what would you offer?
Right. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing when you were talking about having a 7, a 2, and a 1-year-old.
I know. It's like
I'm just trying to get through the day.
Yeah.
I just want to be alive at the end of the day, and then be alive and fed, right?
Yeah. It's like
mess.
What mess?
Yeah. I mean, that's a heavy load. But to Jill's point, I think is really important is that you do, because it is your home, you can have some rules, some expectations. And by the way, you said it's supposed to be for a couple weeks, and now it's longer. Do you know how much longer, or is it open-ended now?
It's open-ended, and so we have to have that conversation this weekend, but my daughter does think that I'm just overly, with the expectations.
Okay, and so you've got to maybe be a little bit flexible and lean into her a little bit. Maybe ask her where you can come alongside of her and help. And that you're not expecting it to be exactly how you would want it. You're just looking for some effort, right?
I also think, Jade, if you guys can come up with a safety word like, escape or something when whether you're feeling too much or your daughter is feeling too much, that you can just raise the flag and say, hey, we need a break. And, just kind of get some space. We'll be praying for your family. What an exciting time. And I also think about the memories that those kids are going to have. Well, at least the older one. But
with grandma.
Thanks so much. That's right. Thanks for calling, Jade. And we're going to send you 100 days of prayer because you're going to need it.
The Life Recovery Connection Conference is online Saturday, October 7th. The topics addressed aren't just for people with alcohol or drug addictions, but for anyone who wants to move from the pain and the struggles of the past towards a healthier and happier future. Steve Arterburn, Becky Brown, and other experts will present new material on topics like reclaiming your calling, small group best practices, self-care, discipleship, sponsoring and mentoring, understanding and loving an addict or alcoholic, the history of the 12 steps, and much more. Plus, there are interactive breakout groups led by the conference presenters. To register or to find out more about the New Life Recovery Connection Conference, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE or visit liferecoverygroups.com. Get help to successfully walk your recovery journey as well as go alongside others in need of help. 1-800-639-5433 or liferecoverygroups.com. Chris Williams on coaching.
Oftentimes I get asked, what is the difference between therapy and coaching? The biggest difference between the two is that a therapist is going to be looking for a diagnosable mental health condition, whereas a coach is going to look at a particular issue and help a person work through that.
If you need a coach, call New Life today and ask about the New Life Coaching Network. Our coaches have been trained and screened with the same intensive process we use for our network counselors.
If you're looking at an issue in your life that you just kind of want to change, whether it be your weight or leadership or other areas of behavioral patterns, check out coaching. There can be some really, really helpful things for you.
Take control of your life and take action to achieve your goals. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 and talk to us about getting a New Life coach. 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. One of the things that we celebrate around here is that we've been around for 35 years and we are planning to go forward for 35 more or plus. And so I want to invite you to listen to one of our, I don't even know what you call it. It's an old show, but I think you're going to see how timeless the wisdom is. Terry, go ahead and roll that.
Let's talk to Josh from Philadelphia, WFIL. We're coming to your area there, Josh. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Good afternoon, gentlemen. I thoroughly enjoy your ministry. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Thank you. How can we help you?
My question is, I'm a 30-year-old Caucasian male, and I have been dating for about a year, 27-year-old African-American female, and through prayer and devotional, we felt led to the Lord, by the Lord, to become engaged and to get married. And I knew that my parents maybe struggled with this a little bit, and when I went to discuss that with them, they brought up some concerns about interracial marriages being more difficult. Also, they were concerned that our children may be confused about their identity. And then her family has had a little history of divorce, and they were concerned about that, saying that divorce is generational. So I had some concerns, about that, and I respect their opinion, and I wanted to put that out there.
Mm-hmm. So what's your question for us?
I guess my question is, are their concerns valid? How do I, move forward, because I do feel this is the Lord's will for me. So,
and you, the two of you, in what's the word here? In addition to feeling like it's God's will, the two of you are fully into each other and want to be married as well, right? It's not just a God thing.
no, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, I think the question is a question that, a lot of people would have and a lot of people would not have. And in my experience, in knowing mixed race marriages, and in knowing situations where there have been adoptions and things like that, my experience is that it really depends on a lot of times on where you live and who your friends are and who your church is, and kind of like, the nature of the culture that you hang out in. And I've seen it be very, very different in some parts of the country than other parts of the country. Very, very different in some churches and other churches. And so what I would want for you is that if the two of you get married, that you just make sure that you guys, find a place where you have a lot of support and a lot of good friends and a lot of cultural support, because I think it can be a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Yep.
But some people don't, and so you just have to, watch out for those people. But God bless you. If you have found the one and she has found the one, and this is what God is leading y'all to, then cool thing.
Yeah, and Josh, how much weight do you put in your parents' opinion?
Well, I do respect and value their opinion. I guess with that said, they also lived in probably the last 30 years in a place that is, primarily only one race. So I don't know.
There you go. All right. So you see the reality of their context. So, every marriage is going to have problems, and you're just saying this is the set of problems I want.
Yeah.
Because I love her, and I feel like God's got it. A decision for us to make, and He's on our side, and we're choosing this particular set instead of another one. How are you going to feel if your parents all the way through say, we're still against this, it's a bad idea, it's going to be a nightmare? Are you okay holding fast with that?
Yeah, I am, and we prayed about that, and they prayed that this would be something that they would come to accept, so I see a willingness there.
That's good.
Well, now
that's
good.
a good sign, buddy.
It's a good sign.
Yeah.
I think...
The other part of this is they're from a previous generation, and we do live in a different world now. We live in a better world racially.
Yeah.
We live where it's just not the same issue that it was in their generation.
And as Ann on the blog says, this could be the best of both worlds, celebrating both cultures.
Yeah.
Now, you do have to be aware. I mean, if you have a child that's more of color than not, I have a friend, they adopted an African-American little boy. Everybody thought he was the most darling thing in the world until he turned 14 and wanted to spend time with their daughter. And everything changed. So it's just a reality that you have to deal with, because a lot of people have not truly come to grips with the racism that's down deep inside from generations. And I'm grateful that we're moving beyond that. Many of us are moving beyond that. But I think Henry and John are really helping you deal with the reality here.
Well, and it is still one of those healing processes, that we talk about even to this day. And so you can see, even though that call was many years ago, we are still helping people, not only in marriages, but dealing with those hurts from generational loss and pain. And we just have to keep moving forward. Jill, isn't it amazing when you hear them talk? It's like they could have answered that call 2 days ago.
Right.
But it's
with all kinds of, and you could put in all kinds of issues in the slot there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we get those calls all the time.
Right. But I like the fact
as
that
someone in an interracial marriage, I can attest that, yes, those issues are still present today.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. I love that, JJ. It's just one of those things that lead with love. I think that we talk about that, but also know that we need to get support when we're faced with some challenges, whether it is a racial difference, whether, we have a values difference, especially with extended family. We'll talk a little bit more about that after the break. we're taking your calls, 1-800-229-3000.
For most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit it's addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have Christ-centered partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found Life Recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 Steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 Steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were listening to a call from years ago about racial marriage, interracial marriage, and the challenges. And, you know, JJ, I just want you to speak to how you have been able to have, I mean, you guys have been married for longer than a year.
26 years.
Wow.
Yeah. It's been a little while.
And so I know that this has been part of your own journey, and I know that you guys are connected so tightly. But, you know, Jill, you even made the comment about how when you get married, there's cultures colliding.
Right. Regardless, even when it's less obvious, you're marrying a different culture no matter who you marry, right? And sometimes there are, you know, socioeconomic differences, but just the way families function are completely different, and you have to learn that culture. But there's an added thing when it's, you know, obvious, right?
Right.
Well, and
right.
JJ,
when it can be seen from the outside,
yes,
right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so how have you guys managed that throughout your 26 years of marriage?
Yeah. So, you know, and let me say, I think it's also important to recognize that different racial mixings, whatever phrase you want to use, get treated differently.
Sure.
So my wife is Indian, right? So Southeast Asian. And some people don't even see us as an interracial couple, while as other people very obviously see us as an interracial couple. In fact, we've had conversations with people, church folk, and oftentimes it happens where one of us may say something along the lines of being in an interracial relationship, blah, 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 blah. And they'll look at us like, wait, what are you talking about? You're an interracial couple? And we're like, yeah? I'm confused as to why this is a question, right? But sometimes we've had to do some education around the fact that yes, and you know, no matter, it doesn't have to just be an African American and a Caucasian to be an interracial couple, though that is maybe a more obvious difference. But there's lots and lots of differences, especially when you bring in an immigrant family versus a family that has been in the country for a while. There's very different views, very different ways of, and very different expectations, I should say, around what family means. And so we've had to talk about that. We've had to, and some of those things we only found out by tripping over something and going, oh, that's a difference. Okay, we'll have to work on that, right? So one of my favorite stories was in our first year of marriage, and we were going to go to my house for New Year's Day. And I was all excited, and we spent the whole day. And as we're driving home, my wife says, "Oh, I never want to do that again." I was like, "Why? What's wrong?" She's like, "All we did all day was watch TV and eat food." And I was like, "Yeah, right. That was the best New Year's Day ever." But for her, when I said, "Hey, we're going to go spend New Year's Day with my family," she had a very different expectation of what that was going to look like based on the family she grew up in, right? And she grew up in a family where they didn't watch college football at all. I grew up in a family where we didn't watch anything but college football on New Year's Day. So we had to, some of those things we learned by tripping over them, and some of the things we were able to talk through. But the biggest thing I think for us was making a decision ahead of time, because we did wrestle with the question of, okay, what's our children's identity going to be? And before they identified as Indian or Caucasian, we wanted them to identify as children of God. And so that's what we tried to convey and tried to teach
I love
them.
that. I love that. And, just to your point, Jill, about different cultures can mean a lot of different things. That's one of the things that we uncover at our intimacy and marriage workshop. We help people understand how their histories impact their present and their current relationship. And it's so amazing when their eyes are opened. It's like, I never even thought, I didn't even know that about my spouse, let alone didn't think that it was impacting how we were connecting day to day. And of course, that's a perfect segue into, you need to join us at Intimacy and Marriage in October in Dallas. We want you to be there. We have scholarships available. We want to do whatever we can to help your marriage be what God has designed it to be. And, we'll do everything we can to get you there. We're going to go back to the calls, and we are going to talk with Julia, who's calling us from Los Angeles, California. Terry, I think if you can connect that. Oh, she's not ready yet. 1 second. There we go. Hi, Julia. I'm so glad you called. You're listening on KKLA. How can we help you today?
Hi, I am calling because I'm finally going to confront my mom about her alcoholism, which has gotten to the point where she's kind of binge drinking, shaking. The other day I called her on Zoom and I didn't even recognize her. It's gotten really bad. She's Christian. She blamed it on the deaths of her mom, and then her mom died, and then she started drinking. That's what started this about 5 years ago. I thought she would self-correct. At first, she just started drinking a little bit, and then it kind of got worse. And then my grandpa died, and then her sister died, and it got worse and worse. And then now she is blaming it on the treatment. My dad treats her badly, and she does go to church. She is Christian, but every time I tell her to go to the NA meetings, maybe, that's a possibility. She won't go without somebody. She won't leave the house. So I don't really know how to confront her. I'm thinking maybe flying out there or maybe doing it over the phone. And I'm trying to not confront her with love and not be too angry about it. But I am kind of angry because when she lost her mom, I lost my mom too.
Yes, you did.
I can't. If I call her every single time I call her, she's out of her mind. I can't have a conversation with her. So
that's so sad, Julia. I think we can get you started in the right direction. Jill, how about we start with you?
Well, Julia, I'm so sorry for this, and it's so difficult. There may be some truth in that she was trying to deal with her sadness, right? So she started drinking, and then, as you see, it just becomes an excuse and a way of life. I think it's really hard for people who are entrenched in this to just wake up one day and say, okay, I'm going to do it differently, and I'm going to go out there. It's like they've lost all of their skills. to problem solve, because it's so much easier to just go for the drink, and they can't tolerate any discomfort. So when you tell her to go to AA, the thought of walking in that room by herself, she's not going to do it. And so I'm thinking you fly out there and you go, Mom, come on, we're going to go together. Like, find an open AA meeting and take her and, kind of break the ice. Let her see that, it's a loving and accepting place. And, go with her and help her connect. And then, you can ease yourself out of that. But there's got to be an introduction there. And because of how much she's drinking, I really don't think she's capable at this point. Right?
That's good. JJ, what would you offer?
Yeah, I would agree that it's probably going to be you going out and going with her. I've had the privilege of going with a couple people to their first AA or NA or 12-step group, and it doesn't, from your end, it doesn't feel like you're doing much. You're like, what? I'm just coming along, but what they experience is, I'm not having to do this alone, and they experience someone in the world, somewhere on the planet, actually cares enough about me to walk alongside me through this challenge, through this difficulty, and specifically facing my shame, right? Because I don't want to go into this meeting. I don't want to admit I have a problem. I don't want to admit that I'm powerless over this thing. And so you being willing to say, I'm going to walk beside you in this. I'm going to love you enough to sit with you in this meeting. It communicates volumes to them. So I'm certain it's going to require some sacrifice on your part in terms of the cost of the flight and the time to do that. But it could be the very thing that your mom needs in order to have the strength to walk into that room. Boy, walking into those church basements and rec centers and community halls all over the country. It's the scariest thing, but it's that first step toward freedom.
Yeah, and Julia, we'll send you a copy of the Life Recovery Bible that you can take and give to her, and maybe spend a week with her and go to a meeting every night.
Every day,
it's
every morning.
Yep.
It's going to also help you too, and that's what we've talked about so many times, is the impact of someone else's addiction or use of whatever the substance is impacts the loved ones. Because like you said, you lost her. This is the way that she's been functioning with her grief and her loss. And, with so many things, it works initially, but then it takes your life as well. And so I want to encourage you. We're going to send you that. There's a part of me that wants to send you two so that you can have one too. Maybe. Well, we'll see. And we'll be back after this break and take more calls.
My husband was involved with pornography addiction. He was unfaithful. I called the wedding off. He stepped out on the marriage and ended up having a child.
The Restore Workshop is designed for a woman dealing with a man's sexual addiction issues.
My husband is a recovering sex addict. There were strip clubs, other ladies.
If you've been affected by betrayal, an emotional or physical affair, or pornography, the Restore Workshop will equip you with support and tools to help you through.
Restore has empowered me and has given me the tools to work through my anger, work through my pain, work through my confusion, and help me realize that I am worthy.
Being here and being surrounded by people who get it has given me my power back.
The Restore Workshop is coming to Washington, D.C. November 3rd through the 5th. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE to find out more. That's 1-800-639-5433 or online at newlife.com.
Thank you, Restore. You have changed my life forever.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for over 34 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
Your ministry has saved my life.
If you struggle with emotional hurt, family, or marriage problems, the pit of depression, or the pain of addictions, we can help.
I'm down 100 pounds now from what I was.
Our treatment programs provide clinically appropriate solutions from licensed professionals, all in the biblical framework.
I have had problems with alcohol. I think God has ordained this place to be His.
You don't have to be a prisoner of your pain. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
She tells me that I'm a new man, and I feel like a new man.
It worked for me, and it can work for them too.
This time it is different.
If you're ready to take the first step towards genuine spiritual and emotional healing, call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. God can open the door to a better tomorrow. Call 1-800-639-5433.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We're so glad you're here. I want to have Brian give us a word about giving, and then we're going to go and talk with Tammy.
We are grateful for the support of all of you that listen to this program, and we can't do it without you guys. And right now we are in the midst of our match for the fall, and we've had a group of donors that have pooled funds. So every gift that comes in right now is being matched dollar to dollar. So your gift goes twice as far, and we're grateful for the support. When you make that gift, you can designate that to our scholarship fund, which is something that we help others come to our workshops, like the marriage workshop that's coming up here in a few weeks. And we're just grateful for your support, and just know that it makes a difference.
Well, thank you, Brian, and it does make a difference. Let's go to Tammy. She's going to be our final caller today. Hi, Tammy. How can we help you?
Hello. I have a question. Thank you for taking my call. My question, I'm going to try to ask the question quickly and then kind of give the background. I'm wondering, should I have a 28-year-old adult daughter, and I'm curious as to if I give an ultimatum or boundaries. She's already, believe me, stepped over all the boundaries I've ever, or my husband and I, we've ever tried to establish. But what we do know is that she's in and out of employment. She is a marijuana user. We've asked her not to smoke, or, don't do it. Don't know where she's finding the money. She'll work for 6 weeks, quit the job, or is fired from her job. And lately we've noticed, or I've noticed, that on 2 occasions, like if I had $5 like in my car in the console or something, it's like it's gone, and I know he didn't take it. And then there is like my other daughter who's living here temporarily. She had money, and she noticed that it was gone as well. But we just noticed this today. But when my money left out of the console, I asked, and of course he said she didn't. So my question is, do I give her the ultimatum of getting treatment, and I know earlier you said something about actions are required. But if I'll just be quiet, I don't know if that's enough for you to help.
I think it is, Tammy.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and Tammy, so she's 28. So at 28, it's a privilege to live at home. And I understand she doesn't have resources, and so, where would she go? But I think absolutely it's unacceptable that she's, doing these things because she's not functioning. It would be one thing, even if you disagreed with the pot smoking, if she was functional and was carrying her weight, but she's not. So she's having a problem as a result of her using, or she's using because she's having problems. Either or, she needs to get some help. And so part of, you guys providing room and board means that she's got to get treatment. Otherwise, she's got to find another place to live.
Okay. There you go. JJ?
Yeah, I would agree. I think that it's completely reasonable for you to set that expectation. As Jill said, listen, if she were going to work every day, and when she was out with her friends, she was smoking pot, but she didn't bring it back home, and she wasn't stealing, this would be a different story. But that's not the case. She is not holding down a job. She is taking money, stealing money from other family members. That's not an acceptable way to live. And so for you to say, look, if you're going to live here, this is the requirement we have of you. You're completely within your rights as the parents of an adult child to ask that of her.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and you love her. You want to see her get a hold of her life. And what she's doing, she doesn't seem like she's getting the results she wants.
Right.
Right.
Well, and I think too, Tammy, that you have these conversations not at the crisis point.
No, not while she's
at the
high.
point, right? That, or even if you find money missing. And I would even, if you haven't done any work on recovery yourself, one of the things when you're in a relationship with somebody who's stealing from you, you learn you got to lock everything down. I mean, it's just part of the game that you have to play. And the other thing that you could do is you could come up with a contract like if she were finding a place to live somewhere else, there would be a lease agreement, there would be an expectation of rent and all that. And you can do all of those things. And what that does is it sets her up for success on down the road. And it can be everything from, you're not going to smoke pot in this house. You will, not steal from us, but you can also lock everything up. But also the requirement of financial support. If she doesn't have a rent payment to you, she doesn't need a job. And so you've got to create reality for her. And then, you've got to have other levels of, okay, if this doesn't happen by this time, then this is going to be the response.
Right.
Ahead,
So that's one conversation, and that needs to be established. But then it's like, sweet, you have to lean in, and it's like, sweetheart, is this the life you want? What's hurting inside that you're wanting to numb out all the time? Like, what's going on? What do you see for your life? Tell me what your hopes and dreams are, or what feels so terrible. Because if you can get her to be vulnerable and open up a bit, it's easier to come alongside someone and say, okay, we'll help you in these ways so that you can get beyond this, so you can have the life that you want.
Right.
So
Tammy,
instead of just setting up...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say she gets so irritated, when it's like, what do you want? What do you want for your life? But I do think maybe if we ask at a time when we're not...
When you're not angry. When you're not angry. When it's really just about caring about her.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, JJ. What were you going to ask?
Tammy, are you wanting her to participate in inpatient or outpatient treatment?
Outpatient. She wouldn't. I mean, she just got this job, and insurance would probably. She has insurance now, but yes, I would think inpatient. Excuse me, outpatient. Yes. Outpatient,
right? So in other words, it wouldn't be a facility where she would go and stay there for 30 days.
Correct.
You want something
like
that
meetings.
she would go to,
Start with
like
meetings.
go to meetings and be meeting with a sponsor and possibly doing individual counseling as well, and possibly doing family counseling.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that that's reasonable. Especially now, it's we can celebrate the fact that she got another job, right? We want that to continue, and you can say we think this is the best course of action for you to be able to maintain this job and then move forward, right?
Okay. Let me ask this is my last thing. I don't have too much time, but like we've tried the contract before, and then it didn't. But this time, I mean, I guess we need to make it clear, because we set the expectation that this month, $600 a month would be her payment for living here. And we've tried to do that before where we had a contract, but how do I make it like, no, for real? This is.
Did you enforce the contract, right? That's the question. It's the one thing just to say, hey, we want you to do this. Right.
Sometimes, Tammy, you got to break it down into, instead of $600 a month, it's something a week. Sometimes it's a day, because you're keeping accounts short. And in recovery, we talk about that all the time. It's like, I'm not going to say what's going to happen next week. I'm going to do today. And so, Tammy, we're going to get you connected with either counselor or coach in your area for both either you or your daughter. And we're going to send you a copy of Take Your Life Back, which I think could help you and her. But we'll be praying about the situation. We're so glad you called. Thank you, JJ. Thank you, Jill, for all of your wisdom. And thank you, listeners. Call us if you need some help. We're here for you. Or sign up for a workshop. We'll be there for you, too.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.
Hi, thank you for watching New Life Live. You know, New Life Live is a Christian counseling program where we deal with the hard questions about life, relationships, kids, free choice, freedom of will, whatever. It's all right there on New Life Live every day, every weekday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. If you want to call into the live broadcast, you can find the schedule on newlife.com or click the social media link right below. You can see every episode of New Life Live on the New Life YouTube channel. Watch it with a friend, watch it later. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you'll never miss another episode. So if you want to listen on the go, download the app. The link is right below. And I hope if you need some information, if you want to get some help, you'll call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. And I'll see you next time.